Miranda and I share a great deal of love for animals, and it goes beyond just not eating them. It's just a genuine love for animals, and I think that's fair to say that a lot of humans do, even ones that are eating the animals. I think humans in general love animals, and if you want to know that to be the truth, because you might be like, oh, but like 95% of humanity eat animals, they don't care for their well-being. Well, I'll tell you why in a second. But first, let's go back to the childhood of every human. And if you look at children, they seem to have a genuine love for animals. Really, they seem to have a genuine children between the ages of uh, 1 to upwards of 6, 7, 8, 9, even maybe 10. The problem is nowadays the brainwashing starts to happen a lot sooner. So I would say like anywhere from 1 to 8, let's say, you'll see that like the majority of children love animals, not just pets, animals in general. And so we were talking about that yesterday, and so then we happened to talk about the zoo, right? The concept of the zoo, and how I loved going to the zoo as a child. Miranda loved going to the zoo as a child. My siblings loved to go to the zoo as children, and most children really love to go to the zoo to see the animals and interact with the animals, even if it's from behind the cage. And there's certainly a fascination from children with animals, and an interest, a deep interest. And if you notice, like a lot of the cartoons and the movies for children have animals in them, like I'd say the majority of them. So there is definitely some sort of a love story between children, human children, and the animal kingdom. Uh, and, and so that's what I mean by saying that most humans love animals, right? Most humans love animals, really, because the human, I gotta remember every human was a child at some point, and children really just, for the most part, love animals, right? They love to interact with all kinds of animals, and so now to talk about the zoo, right? So I grew up in a concrete jungle, and I loved going to the zoo because I had no interaction with animals outside the zoo. So I loved going to the zoo. I loved to go and look at animals. Now, that was normalized to me as a child, and to my siblings, and to virtually all children. They think, oh, I love animals. I can't wait to go to the zoo. I'm going to go see them. But the existence of a zoo in and of itself is a destructive behavior. It's destructive. It's like a prison for the animals, but it is normalized. See, a lot of the observed human behavior is normalized because everyone does it, so it becomes normal, right? So the existence of a zoo in and of itself is absurd. Like you're taking these animals out of the wild, out of their natural habitats, and then you're putting them in cages, or in the case of more humanitarian or whatever, yeah, more humanitarian, more compassionate zoos, you just put them in like less confined spaces. But still, I mean, you're putting them in there for what? For the entertainment of humans, right? Because humans are living in very unnatural environments called cities that are surrounded by basically, first of all, they're rampant with EMFs, which are very harmful radiations. If you were to look at a city with the vision of it being able to see all the different radiations going on, it's really scary, really, really scary stuff. And then you've got all these buildings blocking the sun, right? And then you've got all this smog blocking the fresh air, polluting the air. So all these unnatural environments, if you grow up in them and everyone else around you grows up in them, you think it's normal. Like it really wasn't brought to my attention that this is absurd until I took my first mushroom. I did my first mushroom trip. Then I went to nature and I had this realization, like, what the fuck? Like, it hit me for the first time. I was 25, and it hit me for the first time because I went 25 years of my life thinking, oh, it's normal. Like, this is just normal. Like I never thought of it. Like it's not a big deal, right? Like yeah, we're living in cities. Like that's just the way humans live, right? And you want to go see animals, go to the zoo, or you can have a few pets, dog, cat. I just thought it's normal. I never like thought of it in any other way. Then I took mushrooms the first time, and I went to nature, and then it hit me. I was like this. I was like, why are we living there? And why are these trees living here? Right? Like, what's going on? And then I realized, it hit me then, that humans have separated themselves from the rest of the natural world by creating these cities with as little of the natural world as possible. Right? Um, you might live in a city in Canada or America or Europe where you've got a great deal of trees around, right? And so at least the connection to the natural world has been tempered, but there still remains certain things, like you got trees in there, right? But I have traveled the world and I have grown up in a place where there's virtually like no trees. Like they've cut all the trees. It's just straight up concrete jungle. And that's what it is like for the majority of the world. Okay? So, yeah, that really hit me hard. And that normalization, which is called social conditioning, so we're all socially conditioned to think of these things as normal, right? So we think it's normal to isolate yourself, as isolate humans from the rest of the natural kingdom, right? Live in complete disharmony or isolation. We think it's normal, right? I thought it's normal for 25 years of my life. And in the same way, we think it's normal to have a zoo because if you want to go check out the animals, you go there, right? Excuse me. Oof, I just let out 2 big sneezes. So, all right, where were we? Yeah, so we think it's normal. It's called social conditioning. So that leaves you with the question, what else are we socially conditioned for that we think is normal? So the concept of a zoo, putting these animals in prisons, in places in the northern hemisphere where it's cold. You put these animals, you bring them from Africa and you put them in these zoos, outside their habitat, outside their natural climate. You get a lion, you put him in like in a Canadian zoo where it's cold for 8 months of the year, right? Now, yeah, they'll tell you, oh, we put him indoors for most of the time, right? But then when it's open, when the zoo's open and you open it in the winters for limited hours, still, you're putting a lion in bitter cold environment. That lion lives in Africa, doesn't live here. But it's for the entertainment of humans, right? It's like, okay, the architects of the socioeconomic matrix know that humans are like generally good and compassionate at heart. So, they engineered the matrix in a certain way, but said, okay, but they still need to keep their connection with animals, otherwise they go crazy. We'll allow them to have pets. We'll have these zoos. So they think of animals as form of entertainment. Whenever they want to come see them, they'll come to the zoo. Right? And yeah, it's really unfortunate because that's not normal. That's terrible. That's terrible human behavior, to imprison these animals in these prison-like conditions. And I don't care if your zoo is the best zoo in the world and your animals are being treated quote-unquote good. No one wants to be put in a cage. No one wants to be put in a confined space. Right? Not at heart anyway. After a while, you condition the animal, then the animal is no longer a wild animal, and the animal now, if you put them back in the wild, you can't, because they won't be able to survive. They'll die. They won't know how to get food. They won't know how to defend themselves, right? So yeah, then of course at that point in their life, after all that misery, they would want to stay in cages, just like most humans would rather actually stay in cages because it's what they're comfortable with. Most humans will say no thank you to freedom, kind of like the Plato's allegory, right? In Plato's allegory of the cave, the person that breaks out of the cave goes out, sees the beautiful sun, And at first it blinds him, but then he's like, no, I'm gonna look. And then he feels so good, comes back to the people in the cave, tells them, the shadows on the wall aren't real, there's a beautiful real world out there. And they're like, nope, liar, boom, liar, liar, nope, liar, right? They accused him, they wanted to kill him or something, right? They don't want to break out of the cave, of the cage, of the prison that they're in, right? Same way. So, but it doesn't mean those animals don't want to be out in the wild, free. Doesn't mean humans don't want. It just means they've been conditioned now, and it's too late in their life to. They don't want to believe that they lived a lie, essentially. In the case of humans, right? So so much of what we think is normal behavior is just, we've been socially conditioned to think it's normal, but it's completely absurd and destructive. That eating animals, we not only has this been normalized, but it has been deemed necessary. You need your protein, you need your this and that, animal protein. You need animal protein. Otherwise, you're gonna be miserable and you're gonna be like malnourished and blah 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 blah. Not only has it been normalized for us to kill and eat animals, but it has been deemed necessary. By who? By the architects of the socioeconomic matrix, who pay their dues to, gotta be careful with my words here, who pay their dues to Saturn, okay, also known as, right? And one of the rituals is, that they do to please their god, Saturn, is blood sacrifice. So as long as all creatures continue to kill one another, and as long as humans, who are supposed to be the caretakers of the planet, the intelligent ones, the more evolved ones, keep killing other animals and keep eating them, then that blood sacrifice circle keeps happening. And at some point in the future, when humans no longer do that, you will see incredible things happen in the animal kingdom. The animal kingdom itself will stop killing itself, because all animals simply follow the behavior of humans. Humans are the leaders, they're the caretakers of the planet. So as long as this shedding of blood and creatures killing one another continues to happen, which is ultimately perpetuated by humans dictate how things go on the planet. In case you haven't noticed, whatever humans do, everyone else follows, right? If the water supply is poisoned for humans, it's poisoned for animals, right? If the food supply is poisoned for humans, it's poisoned for animals. If humans decide to destroy the planet and drop nukes everywhere, same thing happens to animals. If humans decide to make this a paradise, then it is a paradise for animals. And that's because humans are more evolved, both on the physical evolutionary scale and on the spiritual evolutionary scale. Okay? So yeah, a lot of this behavior that we deem normal is absolutely absurd, absolutely destructive, and you have to ask questions. Why do we do this? And who said we should do this? And is this really beneficial? Is this really good for the common good of all? Is this really constructive, or is it destructive? And so, of course, the act of eating and killing animals, that's completely destructive and unnecessary, right? And so, but it's normalized and deemed necessary also by the scientists, right? Who do you think funds these research studies? Who do you think controls some of these top level scientists are in that cult, in that Saturnic cult? So take that in, it's really, there's lies everywhere. And so having zoos, putting animals in those big prisons, right? Taking them out of their natural habitat, putting them somewhere up in the northern hemisphere where it's cold, putting a lion in some cold zoo, right? Or putting a Siberian tiger in some hot ass zoo, for example, right? Because any zoo you walk in the world has all kinds of animals that come from all kinds of habitats and climates, preferred climates. So yeah, so that's something to think about there. Okay, there's so many things that can go on right now that are deemed normal behavior that is nothing but destructive. But we're socially conditioned to believe it's normal because that it keeps the way they want the Matrix to run keeps running that way. As long as the killing of animals keeps happening by humans, then that will continue to happen all across the animal kingdom, and then the blood sacrifice rituals keep happening. Okay? Alright, thank you for the patrons, for your support. I love you guys. And if you would like to support us on Patreon, I have the link down below in the description. If you join the Patreon, in return, as a token of gratitude, we will add you to our mastermind Telegram group, where we talk about a wide range of things. You'll be around like-minded people. You can message me directly on Instagram, and I'll be happy to talk. Also, I do video calls one-on-one if you're interested to book a call. I have a link in the description, and if you want to send us just a one-time donation as a token of gratitude, if you want to do it in a financial way, because you could just say thank you right now and that's all you need to do. But if you want to show your gratitude in a financial way, I have a link down below. You can donate one time through PayPal. I love you guys, and until the next time, may the force be with you.